Estimated to be worth over $50 billion, the speaking business has come to stay as one of the world's leading industries. How then does one turn the simple act of speaking into a money-spinning business venture? To answer this question, we journey to South Africa to engage with one of Africa's foremost and renowned professional speakers so as to uncover the do's and don'ts of success in the speaking business. Welcome, mental wellness coach and peak performance trainer, Joshua Olsam.
Dr. Joshua Olsam, you're welcome to the program.
It's a great day. It's a delight to be here. Thanks so much for having me, FI.
Now, before we go into the discussion proper, I'd like you to give us an overview of the speaking business globally.
Right, so when we look at the speaking business, it pretty much has its roots that gives rise to the fruits from the United States of America. And most of those who benefit from the industry pretty much are part of what we call the International Federation for Professional Speakers. A lot of them also have become members of what we call the Professional Speakers Association. Now, aside the Professional Speakers Association, we also have a couple of bodies that also provide credence to that career and area of focus, which is basically the International Coaching Federation.
Okay.
And on the African front, we pretty much have, a body that is like the standards body called the African Board for Coaching, Consulting and Coaching Psychology. Wow. But looking at those various industries and various platforms that give credence to the career of communication, one very exciting thing is that when you look at the fee range of what someone like Trump, who before his career used to be hired to do conferences, and when he's hired to do conferences, he's engaged to do about 17 sessions in a full conference that possibly runs for a day, 2 or 3, and his speaking fee was pegged at $1.5 million. Now, when you think of that height for one person,
in 3 days.
Yes, in pretty much, statistics and earning capacity, the industry has been said to be worth over $50 billion.
$50 billion.
Now,
annually.
So when you think about that figure, the question you begin to ask yourself is, what are we playing at on the continent of Africa? And for you to be able to play at that level, one of the things you need to make sure you do is to make sure that you bump up your professional practice. You pretty much get yourself affiliated and associated with the right kind of people. Having said that, one very interesting thing that excites me, and I say excites me, is because the ICF, the International Coach Federation, recently has begun to recognize that the African continent is one that is very, very relevant. And just to bring it home and bring things into some form of clarity, last year the ICF held its African convention in South Africa. And one of the things that they do once every 2 years is that they pretty much bring presidents who represent the entire globe to the country where they have their regional convention. And so last year, a gentleman who worked for Barack Obama was also one of the keynotes at that international conference. Wow. And yours truly was really honored to have been invited to be the closing keynote.
Wow, you sharing that stage. Well, thanks for giving us that background so that people can understand the tone and tenor of discussion.
Right.
I do want you to break it down for us.
Right.
Because to the average audience, our focus is the African continent.
True.
To the average person out there, all of this International Federation of Coaches, Speakers, is just too far away for me to connect with or to relate to. Please break it down for us. As someone who has spoken and has been involved with speakers, professional speakers across the continent, you applied your trade in Nigeria before you relocated to South Africa, and from South Africa you've been to different parts of the world. Give us a kind of comparative analysis, if you can, of what should be vis-a-vis what is in terms of the structure, the system, the technology, and all the other variables that are required to succeed as a professional speaker on the African continent vis-a-vis other climes around the world.
You know, just to kickstart the response I will bring to what you have said, I'm reminded of the words of Warren Buffett, and he says, if you can't communicate and talk to other people and get your ideas across, you're literally giving up your potential.
I agree with him.
Now, a couple of words stand out from that quote. First off, communicate. Second is people. Third is potential. Now, if I would add another word from that entire quote, it will be the word across. And 4 is the number for balance. So let's start with communicate.
Okay.
As an African, if you have been privileged to do public speaking and you are trying to communicate and get your message across, one of the things that you need to make sure you do is to identify with a body, an association that will help bring some form of clarity or strength or scaling up of your skills, as it were. And so there are a couple of bodies and associations that basically help to enhance, or if you may, just to strengthen that skill set. And so that will be my first recommendation for anyone who lives in our beautiful continent that has 54 plus countries
and wants to be a professional
speaker. So identify with a local body or a local club that basically focuses on helping you to shore up or strengthen your skills around presentation. Because the moment you begin to do that, your muscles in quote will get strengthened by virtue of use.
Yes. And let me also drop in to the mix the fact that when you associate with a professional of people with similar interests, there is a synergy that begins to build around you, and which tends to enhance your speakability. I actually picked that word from you, speakability. So
I feel very, very honored that you still remember some of this exciting things.
Some 13 years ago.
And when we think about, some 13 years ago, when we think about the word speak and ability, speakability simply helps you to connect with one very key value, that when you develop the ability to speak, you really have developed speakability. And
so you will come to all of those nitty-gritties. We'll come to those nitty-gritties. But first, I want to explore further your recommendation for those who desire to pick up speaking as a profession or as a business. Embed yourself within a speakers network, locally, nationally, and if you can afford it, internationally. These bodies are all over the place. You only need to find out the ones that are very credible, that have your kind of people, and then embed yourself within them. What are the other things that one needs to do?
So I talked about, and I picked it from the Warren Buffett quote I just said, communicate. The second thing is you need to nurture and nourish your potential. Now, one very important thing that I think a lot of us take for granted is that our potential is potent already. But for it to be scaled up, for it to, as it were, experience wings that will get it to soar and fly, you need to make sure that you find what I would call accountability partners. And that is why taking your development to bodies that will hold you accountable is very, very important. Why do I say so? When I think about my work and my career, one very important thing that has helped me to a great deal is ensuring that I have people in the industry that I'm accountable to. And so those people who see me as somebody who they can give sincere feedback, and as it's been said, feedback is the breakfast of champions.
Agree.
And that has helped them to see me as somebody they can also recommend.
True.
So I'll give you an example. One of the top 5 banks on the continent of Africa that is also a global bank, and I wouldn't like to mention their name because they possibly are not paying you guys for advertising.
You can mention their names. I'll just send you an invoice.
So one of the top 5 banks was actually looking for coaches on the African continent to engage for all their country banks. And so one of the things that they did was they approached one of the coaching bodies on the African continent, because they know that that coaching body is one that is respected continentally and also globally. So what they did was they asked the president for that particular continent to please refer people to their bank. And so they then said, instead of referring people, how about the coaching body notifies coaches that they believe meet up with their expectations to contact the bank. And there was a specific template that was given to every coach that was given the opportunity to approach that bank for that opportunity to become coaching representatives for each country where the bank operates. Anyway, to cut the story short, this is what happened. I had the privilege to also apply. And after applying, I was told that, sorry, we have a lot already for the country where you live. However, the country you are born and have some work and expertise that you do business in that country, we do not have one that has met our requirement for that country. So we would recommend that you specifically seek to do work for us
from that country.
I was happy but sad, and here is why. It was a double-edged sword kind of thing. I was happy because even though I don't live in that country, I do business in that country. The bank recognized my skill set and the fact that I met their requirement to do work in that country. But I was sad because there are millions of people who live in that country who possibly would jump at that opportunity to be able to do coaching or speaking work. Now, what it also helped me to realize is that a lot of the people who are in that country have not been able to scale up their potential to the point where they will become a resource that could be sourced by that bank.
I can understand, and that's one of the reasons why we're having this conversation, so that we can avail our people the opportunity of having information about what needs to be done.
Absolutely.
Coming up.
The moment you're able to associate with the right people and develop yourself and then get to become part of a good network that will help accentuate your career or bring you to that space and place, then you need to get up and go speak. Now,
so what are the entry points? Are there any requirements? Are there any certification? One thing I'm drawing from your postulation is that accountability partners, we tend to think it's about peer review. It's about you also having somebody that keeps you on your toes. But the impression I'm coming away with now is that in addition to those two benefits, are also the benefits of you having them as your network and people who will catalyze you and who can recommend you.
Profound.
And also facilitate you into opportunities. So a lot of us don't take it important. We don't recognize the importance of having accountability partners. I have a client at service presently, and he's the CEO of a company that grosses hundreds of millions of naira annually. But in that organization, the number one, number two, and number three problem is the CEO. But nobody's going to tell him. Now I've been trying to figure out how to tell him. And I saw the opportunity in beginning by asking him, sir, who are you accountable to? He said, I have a board. I said, I've attended your board meeting because I requested to attend his board meeting. And I still see that your board people are not so much people who challenge you. who put you on the spot? Who are you accountable to? As Africans, especially accomplished Africans, we don't see a need to be accountable to any individual or professional body somewhere. So it's a very good thing that you've touched on this for us in this episode. Accountability partners, who could be your colleagues, it could be your associates, it could be your mentors, it could be your role models, or it could just simply be somebody who is a consultant to you as a counselor or a coach. I think it's very important that you touched on that.
And quite interesting, and I'm sorry to take those words off your mouth. I love the fact that you just mentioned the word coach. And you know one very important thing, we have come to find out that the quality of the questions we ask will truly determine the quality of the answers that we get.
I totally agree.
In other words, for us to be able to evoke the right energy and perspective from people, we need to have the right questions and ask the right questions. And I like the fact that you indicated that you asked him specifically who are the people that he's accountable to.
Yeah. So still going further.
Yes.
We've learned about embedding yourself within a speakers network,
True.
having accountability partners. Give us a list of the other things that we need to do.
So one of the things that
if you're seeking to become a professional speaker.
So associate yourself with the right industry, association, plug yourself into the right mentorship, leadership, coaching, people network that will help to be able to grow you and give you visibility and access and a whole lot more. One very important thing also that I believe everyone needs to be doing on a regular basis is to further improve themselves. Because the more you learn, definitely, the more you learn, the more you can earn, says my friend Brian Tracy. And I'm really privileged to have co-authored the book with distinguished Brian Tracy. And,
wow, that's
the
impressive.
book actually became a New York Times bestseller.
That's impressive.
In less than 90 days.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, Brian Tracy is somebody that a lot of people in the industry recognize as a leader in the industry, and I'm not surprised because when someone like you partners with Brian Tracy, I mean, the kind of spark it will produce will be stuff that legends are made of. We'll come to those areas of your life in the later part of the discussion. Right. But I'm thinking to myself, I want to be a professional speaker. Whilst I am doing all of these items you've listed for us,
Right.
I should start the speaking profession immediately.
Sure.
Because my mantra is start where you are with what you have and then improve on things as you go along. So I expect that people in the early part of their career should do all of these things that you've talked about. But before doing all of these things, start where you are with what you have.
Makes a whole lot of sense.
So if we're starting
Definitely.
where we are with what we have, what are the entry points into this business?
Right. So I was actually going to say that the moment you're able to associate with the right people and develop yourself and then get to become part of a good network that will help accentuate your career or bring you to that space and place, then you need to get up and go speak. Now,
so what are the entry points? Are there any requirements? Are there any certification?
So the first thing that anybody needs to first and foremost realize is that you just need to decide to speak. And speak everywhere and anywhere.
Everywhere and anywhere.
Why? Because just like muscles, you're also getting your speaking skills and career. All muscles get strengthened by doing that. A lot of times people say, but if it's a career, I should be making money from it. Well, how about you realize that could be your own internship within your own international business, where you are skilling yourself, where you are preparing yourself, because nobody will hire someone who is not known.
I totally agree. So you can start by speaking pro bono
True.
for free.
That's right.
In your community, in your professional organizations, and some other civic fora. Don't wait until you're invited to come and speak before you begin to speak. That seems to be what you're telling us now.
Yes, sir.
So the entry point requirement is your willingness and desire to speak.
Absolutely. That there must be a will, and that will then creates the way.
What do you have to say to those who say, I don't have any message for the world?
So here's the interesting thing. Everybody's trapped with potential and possibilities. What we need to realize is that it is only when you begin to speak that which you have within you emerges.
So everybody has a message resident in them.
Definitely.
And everybody has some know-how that is already deposited in them.
Definitely.
All they need to do is to seek platforms and avenue whereby they can train their speak ability and go out there and deliver their message to the world.
Which is why, again, from those couple of things that we have mentioned, associating yourself with the right professional association in the industry, allowing yourself to be tutored and groomed towards it, it then gives you what I call the platform to be able to deliver it. And then when people see you, it becomes easy for people to want to seize the opportunity to engage you, to do work for them, which will then earn you the opportunity to move from freemium to getting the premium.
Coming up.
Developing of your skills as a speaker also requires that you develop content before you are required to give them. And so I remember standing and speaking, and my sisters would laugh and my mom would be wondering why they're laughing at me, and they were wondering, you're just talking to us and you're behaving as if you're speaking at an international.
People need to understand it's a journey.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm taking away from you now. And the starting point could be freemium, and it could be premium. Barack Obama could decide to start a speaking business at a premium level because he's the president of America.
The truth about it is that he actually didn't start at a premium.
He didn't.
He was really and truly offering himself to speak for free.
I know.
By serving his gift.
I know.
And that then brought him into that premium space.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, he would be earning nothing less than $100,000.
That would be the cheapest.
Yes.
Because I know that Barack presently earns more than former President Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton's earning was in the millions. After he left the White House, his smallest earning was $3 million. Hillary even earns more than her husband. And Hillary doesn't even earn as much as Barack Obama presently. So I know Barack's present wage would be in the millions of dollars. And I do know also that Barack started from the littlest, if you permit that English, from the littlest level till he got to the premium. As a matter of fact, because I have 5 of his books and I've digested all of them. He said what took him to Reverend Wright's church was he loved the way Reverend Wright uses language to move crowd. And that was the attraction for him. And that was how and why he became a member of his congregation. Reverend Wright's speak ability, he wanted to learn at his feet, even without Reverend Wright's knowledge. So he embedded himself in the congregation and learned how Reverend Wright uses words to move crowd to action. So starting with the freemium is not in any way a wrong thing to do, no matter what your present earning is.
I totally agree.
What are the startup resources? What do you need to possess to take off?
So maybe I should bring it home and talk about myself.
Please.
When I started out 18 years ago, I started out as a motivational speaker. And all I wanted to do was to just inspire people. Now, my first fee was 2,000 naira.
My first fee was 5,000 naira.
Impressive. You see now? You are ahead of me in that regard.
5,000?
Yes.
And before then, I had spoken for free at numerous fora. I'd done Events Compare for free. I had a girlfriend there who would always insist that I charge. And I said, these people cannot afford me. Let me do it for free. I always tell my mentees that the freebies gave birth to all these access banks that you see today, all these total trainings that you see today. The freebies that I started with gave birth to that. And I must also chip in that the burden I have to help people as a teacher made me to do a lot, maybe not say more. I teach curriculum, but as a teacher I also do a lot of motivational speaking.
Right.
And my students were appreciating it, but they didn't know that I was actually using them to train myself, to build my muscles and how to motivate people. I also joined the Toastmasters International, and these are some of the things that helped me. But we're still talking about what you need to have to take off as a professional speaker.
Yes, yes.
What are the things that need to be in place? Do you need startup capital? Do you need to have, what do you need to have?
So, a friend of mine who is South African by birth, though lives in the US right now, said, and I quote, his name is David Molapo. David says that for every voice, there's an invoice.
Wow.
In other words, when I unpack that phrase, the one thing is that your voice is an invoice or has invoices tied to it. In other words, your voice is your asset as a speaker. That's why it's important to, nurture it, nourish it, so that it's able to serve you and project that which you are trying to bring to reality for people. So that's the first point. Everyone who wants to be a great speaker needs to constantly get their voice.
So that's the number one resource.
Yeah.
What are the other resources?
So, again, you having your voice is not enough. Training your voice is also very, very key. So, as I'm speaking right now, that's flexing my voice. How to modulate it. And recognize that there's a place to pace, but also pause.
So you try to train yourself
Absolutely.
on eloquence,
Absolutely.
articulatory efficiency,
Absolutely.
oratorical prowess.
Absolutely.
You grow as you go.
Absolutely. So a whole lot of that is very, very needful. Why? Because people only pay for value.
True.
And so a lot of times many people say, oh no, I can speak. In quotes, as much as they say they can speak, they are sparking, if I may use that expression.
So you need to constantly ask yourself,
Absolutely.
how do I come across when I speak?
Absolutely. Very, very important.
And you need to address those gaps.
So important.
If you can't afford a professional, the ideal thing is to seek out a professional.
Absolutely.
If you can't afford a professional, there are resources online, there are books. You can get yourself a mentor. It's a cheap way of bypassing the professional thing. What are the other resources? What about your mind?
So again, if you're going to be a great speaker, to recognize your mind is a tool. The mind will only become resourceful when it is being fed with the right details and the right information.
Yep.
So that's where the whole training comes in. And aside the training, the need to learn to sit and learn from others is very important. I like the fact that you mentioned Toastmasters.
Yep.
But I would also say that take it further. To take it further, I mean join yourself with bodies that help people to appreciate paying for the skills of speakers and coaches. That was what I did. After identifying the need to skill myself, I knew that if I was going to be a success at my career, I was not going to play local.
Wow.
In other words, I was local but globally minded.
True.
And that then led me towards going to get the right type of training. And it took me to desire to go become part of the Professional Speakers Association. So I did my search, and when I did my search, I realized that the only chapter of the Professional Speakers Association was in South Africa. And that was what inspired my desire to go and attend the convention in South Africa. From going to attend the convention in South Africa, I then realized that industry experts who come for that convention don't rush off.
Wow.
After the convention, they get to volunteer their time to do stuff in South Africa, and in wanting to do the same thing, an opportunity came for me to speak at a church.
Wow.
Now, that was my first ever opportunity to speak at a church outside the land of my birth in Nigeria. And so I spoke at a church in Cape Town, recognizing that I was going to bring my A game.
True.
Now, I had no idea that I was going to speak in that church. I only went for the conference, remember?
Yeah.
But on my way back from the conference, a friend who had invited me to his house was taking me to their church the following day, and he said to me, he said, you know, we're going to have a great day in church today. I said, well, I'm looking forward to it. You are my host. You are the pastor. And so we get to his church, and he gets on the podium and announces to his people, we have a guest. And I was really looking forward to just getting up to just, you know, say hi to everybody, when he suddenly announced to the entire church, our guest doesn't know what I'm about to do, but he will be speaking to us for the next 30 minutes. And my jaw drops. Now, I said that to say this, that the developing of your skills as a speaker also requires that you develop content before you are required to give them. And so I remember standing and speaking, you know, and my sisters would laugh, and my mom would be wondering why they're laughing at me, and they were wondering, you're just talking to us and you're behaving as if you're speaking at an international conference.
Wow.
So I was literally ready for the global stage, even though I was local.
Before you were back on that.
That's right. And so that opportunity to speak at that church in Cape Town, without knowing that a member of the South African Parliament was seated in that church service, she became my very first client. Invited me to the South African Parliament, and the rest is history. So,
And that's how you located.
that's right.
That's how Nigeria lost you to South Africa. What are the kind of competencies that are required for one to succeed as a professional speaker? You've talked about your vocal capabilities.
Absolutely.
You've talked about the need for you to have content in the area you want to speak on.
Absolutely.
What are the other things?
So the next thing is to recognize that the speaking industry is a professional business. In other words, even though I wasn't earning what I wanted to earn back then, I had a picture of the future, to the point that was why I featured in that picture future perfect.
Wow.
In other words, I could see it before I seized it. And that helped me to act accordingly.
So for you, the mindset you bring into it
Absolutely.
is critical to your success.
So important. So important.
And the mindset you should bring into it
Absolutely.
is to see it first and foremost as business,
Absolutely.
not we're playing.
Absolutely. And seeing it as business means that even when I was doing free stuff for people, when I finish speaking for them at an event, I write a thank you letter for having me.
For the opportunity.
And that thank you letter, a footnote, helps them to realize what they would have paid in terms of my fee value, even though it was free for them.
So from the get-go,
Absolutely.
treat it as business.
Absolutely.
Even when you speak for free,
That's right.
let your approach be professional
Absolutely.
in every way,
Absolutely.
and let your approach be business-like
Absolutely.
in every way, even when you do it for free.
Absolutely. And so that helps.
That mindset helps you.
Absolutely. That helps govern a whole lot of value and helps those who are even getting free stuff to see you as someone that they eventually get to hire.
Coming up.
If you really truly want to develop your speaking skills and develop yourself as a professional speaker, find a way to connect with people who are doing it. All right? And find a way to build your skills. I mean, think about it. There are people who will pay you some money.
I can relate to mindset because mindset dictates every other thing. But I also recognize, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, that among the competencies that you require to succeed in this business are the information that you carry.
Absolutely.
The content that you carry.
Absolutely.
Because you will be able to wow the audience with your performance. If you lack substance, people are going to see through all the swags and
the smoke screen.
And that brings you back to what a lot of speakers are suffering as a result of that these days. So I'd like to know, where can one obtain sources for information that can enrich one's content as a professional speaker?
So I was telling my story, and here is what has helped me. From developing myself and schooling myself and recognizing how it is done professionally, something became very, very clear to me. That everyone who is a professional speaker or coach has a niche. And that niche helps to funnel a whole lot. So that was what helped me. And I was able to recognize that my core area was human performance, and then I was able to then further develop myself to the point where I am now, a stress reduction, expert, and also basically do a whole lot of things around team building to learning and development consulting, which are now core areas that I have developed myself in and I have stayed with and have a whole lot of expertise around.
So now, you started from a general point.
That's right.
Motivational speaker,
that's right,
which was quite huge and multivariate. Gradually you began to recognize and realize your strength, which is mental wellness and deployment, team building. Then you started to narrow your focus to obtain information in these areas. In a general sense, where does one go for information? I do know that the internet can be a huge and potent resource, but for you to be fresh, you need to drink from other fountains.
Absolutely.
Aside from the general fountain. So besides the internet, where else does one obtain knowledge? Having recognized one's niche area.
So
I like the fact that you touched on niche area.
Very important.
Don't try to be a problem solver in every area. Look for your niche area of strength and stay there and have depth and breadth. If as a professional speaker I've discovered my niche area and I want to develop myself along that line, where do I go aside the internet?
All right, great. So for me, what I did was I found out that one of the things that was going to help me was to get some form of education around communication and coaching. And for me, the University of Cape Town, the Graduate School of Business at the University of Cape Town, was my go-to place to have some form of specific knowledge around coaching and communication. Now that's the one side of it. There is a professional body that I am proud to be part of called the African Board for Coaching, Consulting and Coaching Psychology. It is the standards body for the coaching industry on the continent of Africa. And so there are continuous professional development programs that body helps people to glean around, whether you say you want to focus in coaching, or you want to focus in learning and development or consulting. And that basically helps you to hone your skills around this core niche areas.
So there are niche professional organizations or bodies that one could plug oneself into and draw currents from.
Absolutely. As you do that, one of the things that will also happen is that there are recommended reading, that you will begin to specifically get from those bodies. Say, for example, right now, anyone who is a PC in the African Board for Coaching, a practitioner coach, needs to have gone through a minimum of a 9 months to a 1 year certification around coaching. For you to be able to go through that, there are recommended reading that will help you to understand things around presenting, communicating, listening skills, questioning skills, that will help you to be very proficient in your delivery in whatever core area that you are focused in, which is one of the things that I recommend, one of the things that I do, and I will continue to do as long as I live as a professional in the industry of speaking, coaching, mentoring, and leadership development.
Wow, and as many as are possible, you can plug yourself into as many organizations as you can afford to by way of time and other resources. I know books help, DVDs help, tapes help, podcasts, YouTube, among some of the other resources that are general.
Yes.
But what I'm learning from you now is that in addition to those other general platforms and sources, one should identify niche organizations to which membership one can subscribe and begin to. Now, for those who don't have the funds, maybe I'm an unemployed graduate in Nigeria.
Okay.
For those who don't have the funds for membership fee, though I must also chip in that for many of these organizations, the membership fee they're usually negligible. They're not as expensive as we think.
True.
But for those who don't even have the funds at all, how do they begin their search for knowledge and understanding?
So, which is why it's important that we all realize this. When I told my story, I didn't have any of those membership affiliations. But one of the things that I did was that it was a goal.
It was a goal.
That's right. So a goal, in the words of my dear friend Mike Murdoch, he says a goal is a dream with a deadline. Until you set a deadline, that dream or goal remains dead.
Just wishful thinking.
Absolutely. If you really truly want to develop your speaking skills and develop yourself as a professional speaker, find a way to connect with people who are doing it. All right? And find a way to build your skills. I mean, think about it. There are people who will pay you some money. When you earn that money, one of the things that it drives you to do is to pay for the membership. Why? Because if you are going to be hired by global brands, there are certain checks that they will do.
True.
And if you are not one that recognizes those things, you cannot earn from those businesses and those global brands.
The global brands have their checklist.
Absolutely. So if you're going...
And even the high net worth individuals, they have their checklist.
True.
And this will help you to have some leverage.
Totally. So that's what I did. And to be honest with you, there are certain global brands. As I'm talking to you right now, I think of 3 to 4 global brands that we have worked with the last 5 years.
Wow.
Now, one of them is a company that is over 100 years old. Now, why am I mentioning this? I'm mentioning it because I want everyone who is listening to bear in mind that here is this young Nigerian who was born 42 years ago in Lagos, Nigeria, but now gets the opportunity to do business for a global company that is older than him. There must be some value to be able to draw virtue from.
I agree. I want us to touch around the issue of background. People say your background can be a leveraging opportunity when you find yourself in different industries.
Okay.
Does same apply to this industry?
So,
are there certain kinds of backgrounds that gives you higher leveraging opportunities than some when you go in? And what are the indices of that background?
I would say to you that a background could be an advantage, but it's not necessarily a recipe.
Not necessarily.
It's not necessarily a recipe. As a matter of fact, what is key is that you have the guts, and that guts will get you going. That guts should be your fuel.
The guts should get you going.
That's right. That guts should get you going, and the guts should then lead you to finding your own space and place. Tell your story. Have a story. I am nothing. I don't have anything. I am this. I was that. You know. I was born in what hospital? You know. I was the only boy who was born the day kids were born, and that's me, by the way. I was the only guy who was born in the hospital. I was born in St. Nicholas in Lagos. I was the only boy, all girls aside this dude. You know, find a way to tell your own story. Let it resonate with people. Let people see the unique selling point that stands you out. So, and that becomes a source of attraction.
So there's no specific background, speaking about background, because every human being has a background.
Absolutely.
It's just that they have varieties of background. And for speaking, every background has weight. It now depends on you, the speaker, to find out what are the unique aspects of your background that can resonate with your target audience. That's what I'm conjecturing from this postulation. Absolutely. A lot of people think selling and marketing are the same. They're not. Marketing is different from selling. They are just interrelated. So what do you do, or what should you do by way of marketing in the speaking business?
So for me, one of the things that I did was I wrote a book. Because when you are an author, you are seen as an authority.
When you're an author, you're seen as an authority.
Absolutely.
That's a part.
Now, somebody asked me a question during a facilitation that I was running around writing the book, and said, so you say when you're an author, you're seen as an authority. So what's the difference? And I said the difference is the ITY. So what does ITY represent? And usually when you've developed yourself so much, when people put you on the spot, the spotlight helps you see a whole lot more in that core area of focus. And here is what happened. As that person asked me, what does ITY represent? I suddenly thought, and I had this aha moment. I represent inspiration. T represents truly. Y represents yours. Inspiration truly yours.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the first thing you did when you thought about marketing widely,
that's right,
is to be an author.
That's right.
What about those who don't have proficiency for writing?
Now, again, the same way some people think that they don't have a message, that's the same way they think that they don't have something to say. Now, we have been having a conversation. This conversation is a lot of data.
True.
And this data is content.
True.
I always say, and by the way, I heard this from my friend who used to work for Obama. He said, content is king and platform is queen.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Now, what we are saying, this voice display, this expression of our vocal cords to unpack the insight that is trapped within our medulla oblongata, is to basically help everyone to realize that as much as we are unpacking content, that content needs a platform like this beautiful channel of yours. The same way some people would watch this, that is the same way some people